The highest court. Passage 1. The Supreme Court is the most important part of the government when it comes to enacting large-scale change. However, paradoxically, there's a new word for me, so I need to check it out. So, paradoxically means in a seemingly absurd or self-contradictory way. Okay. It is also the major body that most citizens know the least about. The framers of the Constitution seem to have been the least certain about the judicial branch as a whole. In terms of words, the Constitution devotes far more space to the other branches than it does to the judicial branch, and it does little beyond establish the Supreme Court as the highest court in the land. Thus, it is confusing that a body seen as an afterthought by the framers had come to have such a dramatic effect on American life. Okay, so passage 1 is primarily concerned with explaining how the Supreme Court gained the power to enact large-scale changes, which isn't true because it doesn't mention anything about how this gained the power. Tracing the history of the Supreme Court from its inception to the present. Describing how the framers of the Constitution viewed the Supreme Court, analyzing some of the most important cases on which the Supreme Court decided. See the correct answer, right? Oh, A. Wait, why? The first passage covers 2 points. First, it states most Americans don't understand the Supreme Court, even though the Supreme Court is best able to enact large-scale change, making it a very important part of the government. Second, it describes how the Supreme Court gained power not given to it in the Constitution. The majority of passage is devoted to this, as the other explains the history and significance of the Marbury v. Madison. The whole passage, but not this paragraph. Oh my goodness. I forgot it. I thought that the answer was only asking about what the paragraph 1 discussed about, but it asked the whole passage 1, which, it's not really expected. Yeah, so this is my fault. I just didn't pay too much attention to the question, and it resulted in the mistake I made in the question 1, but I'll keep going. Don't worry. I'm not gonna make any mistake again. So we need to read the question carefully according to passage 1. So this will be related to passage 1. The case of Marbury v. Madison. I'll need to continue reading. Okay. Indeed, the Supreme Court the Supreme Court didn't have that much power until the landmark decision of Marbury v. Madison, 1803. In the case, William Marbury sued James Madison, who somewhat coincidentally was the author of the most of the wording of the Constitution, to deliver documents that enabled Marbury to become Justice of the Peace in the District of Columbia. However, what was really at stake was the role of the Supreme Court in the government. The case helped set the divide between the branches of government and, more significantly, established the process of judicial review. By that process, the Supreme Court gets to decide whether laws passed by the legislative branch and enforced by the executive branch are, in fact, constitutional. It is through this process that the Supreme Court has been able to make the broad changes to which I have previously alluded. According to passage 1, the case of Marbury v. Madison, so from this part until the landmark decision of Marbury v. Madison 1803, okay, so make it illegal for states to segregate people based on racial differences. Well, does it mention about this statement? Let me see. Expand the amount of space the Constitution devoted the judicial branch to create the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land. Establish the right of the Supreme Court to determine whether laws are constitutional. I think D is the correct answer. Okay. It can be referred from passage 2 that the Supreme Court So we need to continue reading. The Supreme Court has interestingly been both a body that brought about sweeping reforms and also one that upheld the status quo. This might seem like a contradiction, but it's true. The Supreme Court upheld slavery and later segregation before, 60 years later, agreeing that segregation was unconstitutional. It also at various points decreased and increased the powers of police office forces of the limits of free speech. How can this be so? So, like that the Supreme Court does not typically cause major changes to occur is not understood by most Americans, has reserved its own rulings several times in the past. See? Okay. As used in paragraph 2 of passage 2, the word subsequent most nearly means, so I'll need to continue reading and put this word in context. While partially it is because the Supreme Court has been made up of different members since its inception. The 9-person body is made of justices appointed for life. When a justice retires, a new Supreme Court judge is appointed. Each judge comes to a case with her or his own opinions, yet bases decisions on precedent and on interpretation of the Constitution. This can change over time, and this depends on the makeup of the court. Precedent is a previous case or decision through which subsequent cases are considered or followed. That is, if a court has decided that something is legal, following precedent could mean that cases after that one should uphold the original ruling. However, the Supreme Court is the final court of the nation, and it decides if cases from regional judges will stand or overturned. So subsequent here, it supposedly means following something after something in time. Following. Okay, so that means following, as the meaning have suggested. According to the information in other passage, which of the following was a member of the Supreme Court? In this way, the Supreme Court sets its own precedent and may decide to overturn it in the future. Thus, when the Warren Court, so named before the Chief Justice were Earl Warren. Let me see in this passage whether or not Warren was talking about. We have like Mary V. Madison, William Marbury. William Marbury is the mentioned here. William Marbury. The President Plessy v. Ferguson was not appropriate and no longer applicable in the decision of Brown v. Board of Education. It brought forth the sweeping reform of integration. So even though the same body had previously ruled that discriminating treatment of people based on skin color was legal, 60 years later, it no longer was. We have Homer Plessy. In this case, we didn't see anything about... Oh, yes, we did see Homer Plessy here. President Plessy v. Ferguson. Or Warren, Chief Justice. Let me check. Here we have Marbury to become justice. James Madison and William Marbury. Everything here, right? Justice Marbury. We don't have Marbury, so to deliver, however, Supreme Court. In that case, William Marbury sued James Madison to deliver Marbury to become justice of the peace in the District of Columbia. James Madison, right? Or Warren. Does it have or Warren? No, it doesn't have any or Warren mentioned here. Plessy for... I think the correct answer is James Madison, even though I'm not really sure. Homer Plessy. R. Warren. That's a difficult one, but I'll choose okay. The others of poet passengers could most likely agree that is capable of bringing about major changes, is a controversial body of the government, is in charge of making and enforcing laws. Oh my god, okay. Almost passed. So am I drop the progress? Because like I don't wanna dropped. Okay. Yeah, so I'll keep trying the next time because today I'm so tired. I just like don't understand the whole passage at all. So I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.